So here we are, bright early morning in the middle of week 3, and we've got a drop-dead gorgeous RV8 that's flown all the way from Las Vegas wanting a safety inspection. So let me show you what we've seen so far. So he did tell us that the PMAG leagues once in a while would come loose, and sure enough, we pulled the cowling and one of the cylinders on the left PMAG, the wire is hanging free. So we're going to replace those. When we took a look at them, they're just worn out for some reason. Further investigation revealed some interesting things. So intake gasket on number 2 actually has 2 gaskets. Don't know why, and don't know if you can see that. We're getting in here as close as I can. But it's got 2 intake gaskets there. No big deal, but clearly somebody was trying to figure out a leak. They also asked us to replace the starter cable in the engine compartment, but it looks normal to me. And so come around here a little further, and I'm hoping you can see this in there, what we're gonna get. I'm gonna wiggle the starter cable and can actually see that the bendix is in fact moving. Let me grab the starter cable here, and see that? That is not, it's the whole bendix. So we're gonna have to pull that starter and see what's going on there. The other thing we noticed over here, no big deal, but there's a bolt missing right here in the engine compartment off the baffling. That's a common one. You might want to check that in yours. So here's a better view of the starter cable that we mentioned earlier. If you look, the starter cable actually is the right size. If you'll point at that, Nick, that's a nice thick starter cable, so that's not the problem. However, wiggle that cable now and you'll see that whole inside of that bendix is moving. So there's something wrong there. We're going to pull the starter. It may require a starter replacement.
Alright guys, back on the subject of brakes. These clear lines can be deceiving because over time they'll get stained red and look like there's fluid in there when there is none. You can see this line is completely dry all the way down into the master cylinder. It can't be more than a couple flights away from losing that left brake completely. Right brake looks pretty close to the same. There's some in there. And the telltale sign is to check your reservoir on the outside of the firewall, on the front side of the firewall. This one was completely dry. So that's a good giveaway to check that and make sure that you do have fluid in your lines.
Here's a good example of a leaking intake gasket. You can see it right up here. This is an airplane that's been flying over 20 years and they've never been replaced with about 700 hours. So right there you can see the telltale blue sign. There's a leak right there. So we'll get these gaskets replaced as well. Okay, we showed you a leaking intake gasket from the outside a little while ago. What we're going to show you is how badly they look on the inside here. So you can see there how the gasket is just completely disintegrated, lots of blue fuel stains. So that's just intake leaks, makes for rough idling, doesn't allow you to lean very well, and the cylinders will run hot. If you come over this way, Isabel, and point right up, you'll see the bottom of the cylinder there where they attach, how blue and all the fuel stains right in there, and on this one as well, some remnants of the gasket. So again, you want to replace these things every 300 to 500 hours or every few years if you don't fly much, because they do dry out. Don't forget to drill a hole in the lower rudder fairing. We see a lot of these come in, no holes. You need a hole right here for the nose gear airplanes, and you should have a hole towards the rear end for the tail dragger airplanes. These actually get loaded up with water. Sometimes we've drained almost a quart of water out of these. And in the wintertime, that has the potential to freeze. Both of those can severely upset the balance of the rudder.